This episode is sponsored by Smart Travel, a new podcast from NerdWallet. So we've all got them, haven't we? That one friend who always finds the best travel deals, who always picks the right cars for points, and who somehow ends up in first class while you're back in the middle seat in coach. Well, Smart Travel is like that friend, but in podcast form. They cover all things travel finance, like how to book busy season trips without that busy season sticker shock that we all hate, how to avoid paying for upgrades you won't use, and how travel advisors can snag secret perks you didn't even know how to ask for. How useful is all of that. So travel smarter and spend less with help from NerdWallet. Follow Smart Travel wherever you get your podcasts. Armchair Explorer is a part of the Voyescape podcast network. Check out all of their shows from around the world at voyescape.com. I want to talk about roadside attractions.
Please.
What's the best roadside attraction? And by best, I mean like worst, like craziest roadside attraction you've ever been to?
I guarantee I have an answer to this in a direction that wouldn't expect at all. Because okay. I know an expert in this field.
Oh, yeah?
Literally a published expert. So listeners would not know this because it has not come up yet. But believe it or not, and I did not see my life going this way, but I am technically now, after several episodes having written, I'm technically a travel writer. Would you agree? Okay, somewhat. Thank you. Yeah, somewhat. So my mom actually is a published travel writer and has been for years now. Roadside America.
Oh, really?
She writes for them. Yeah.
Actually, you sent me one of her articles.
I did, yeah, and I was so proud about that.
And guess who was the star person in her
I was in that. Anytime I'm lucky enough to go on trips with my mom, she definitely writes us up.
Hell yeah.
And she's also like at a magazine writing up called Hog Tales, telling stories about the trips that she goes on with or without motorcycles. But she's a lovely travel writer, and she is the expert on like the wacky. So like it's the biggest Jolly Green Giant in Wisconsin, or the biggest ball of string here in Colorado.
That's
all
exactly
of those
what
things.
I hear about.
All of those things. She's the one. We should get her for a segment soon.
Should.
Honestly, yeah. Jason's mom tells you roadside attractions. So my pick from my mom's collection of roadside attractions
blow me away.
Is the Corn Palace in Mitchell, South Dakota.
Okay.
It is a giant structure. It's used as a music venue. It's used as like a small museum. It's used as an event space, and it's a giant structure built of corn. It's just corn.
Wait a minute.
It's so
like
corny.
Cobs of corn. It's so corny.
The cobs, the kernels, the husks, every little bit of corn that you could imagine. The whole
piece
thing.
of the corn is used in this.
It's very wholesomely sustainable. Yes, they use every bit. No waste. No waste in the corn. And it's probably the most flammable building on earth, I have to say. And it's a favorite of hers.
But if you add butter and salt, it's also the most delicious.
Oh, yeah. So there you go.
So I have a couple as well.
Yeah, what do you got?
Because
are these British ones or these American ones? Because again, you're American, born in America. Pretend he fakes the accent.
These things only exist in America.
Fakes all the accent.
Yeah. No, like there literally isn't. People are so cynical back in England, UK, that there's no place for that. Which is what I love about America, right? It's like something like the Corn Palace can just be like, let's go see that.
Yeah, do it. I'm just gonna say, Blarney Stone, really. You got your roadside attractions in the UK area.
But there's an actual history to that.
Yeah, there's a history behind the Corn Palace. It's just a little bit shorter.
It's 40 years old.
Yeah, sorry, you got street signs older than our country.
So we're going to get into a bit of that later because we're showcasing one of my favorite old episodes from Atlas Obscura.
Oh, yeah.
So the thing about Atlas Obscura that I really love is that they showcase all these kind of obscure stuff. We're going to get into that later. But one of the inspirations for this guy that we're going to feature later, Dylan Thuras, who's one of the founders, is he was from the Midwest and he used to travel around all the Midwest with his family when he was a kid, and he used to go to all the mad things like the Corn Palace and other things like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
again, I just want to point out that these are the types of things that you drive 6 hours out of the way to go see. Carry on.
So I was looking up some funny stuff like this, and my favorite one, I think it's in Wisconsin. I think a lot of these are in Wisconsin.
There's a Midwest thing going on here.
I don't want to cast judgment.
Yeah.
Wisconsin's awesome, but there seems to be a disproportionate amount of these in Wisconsin. Anyway, you can imagine a platform about 42 feet high, and it's about the size of, let's say, about 4 parking spaces.
Okay.
Right? This guy's built it because it is an official UFO landing zone.
Oh, okay.
Perfect. Exactly, Charles. Let's get mysterious. So he's basically built this thing as a kind of we're here, we're friendly.
Landing zone, come to us.
Land here, we're good, kind of thing. And thank God, because could you imagine if a bunch of interstellar beings traveled across the unfathomable distance of
Aeons.
light years of the Milky Way, arrived here, and we're like, oh, shit, Bob,
There's nowhere to park.
There's nowhere to park. So thank God for this guy from Wisconsin.
Yeah. I mean, it's also just real wishful thinking on his part, assuming good intentions. He's like, if they're not, he's really just like offering himself up as the first sacrifice. So
no, they're like
very generous.
They're like, oh, look, there's the White House. We got the Kremlin there. There's some pyramids. Oh, wait, Bob, have you seen this place in Wisconsin? But that is where they tend to land. So
I
read into that what you will.
Sure.
Should we go on?
Let's get on with it.
Let's get on with it. Welcome, guys. Thanks for listening. This is Armchair Explorer. I'm Aaron Millar. I'm your host. I'm a travel writer. And our lead producer here, Jason Paton. Oh! Yeah, he's here too. Welcome. And we're excited to be here. We've got a bunch of different stuff.
Yep.
If you guys haven't listened to Pathways before, I hope you have. Basically, this is where Jason and I kind of hang out, share some stories, preview what's coming up ahead, share some clips, have a laugh. We've got some funny stories. Jason's got something planned for the middle that I know nothing about.
Yeah, we have some new segments for travel adjacent.
Oh, God.
Did you get it?
Still.
Oh, it's so bad.
doubling down on that joke. Thank you, crickets.
That'll happen, yeah.
Anyway, we've got lots to showcase. We've got cool stuff coming up this month. And let's start with an episode that both of us have been working on. Chris McCaffrey, who got in touch with us, he's from Boulder, which is down the road.
Yeah,
which is awesome. It's where you live, Jason.
Yes, sir.
And he did an around-the-world bike ride.
Yeah.
But there's loads more to it than that, as if you needed more to it than that. It's a pretty big story.
It's interesting because, like, the first time I heard Bike Around the World, I got insanely impressed. And then the more you think about it, immediately I was like, wait a second. You can't really ride around the world. There's something called oceans in the way. But once you actually start to dig into what it takes just to physically bike the land around the earth, you start to really appreciate it again.
Yeah.
It's insane.
I don't think anyone listened to Bike Around the World and think you cheated the oceans.
They floated, cheated the ocean.
Just saying. But yeah, fair point. He didn't bike the oceans.
That's true.
So, but the cool thing is he was about halfway through. It took him about 17 months to do the whole thing. Mm-hmm. About 8 months in, I got a message on my Instagram. Shout out Chris in the Cold. Exactly. And he said to me that he's been listening to the podcast and
while he was on the ride,
while he's riding,
specifically, which is like,
and it was really helping him because, like, at points when you're riding around the world, I presume you're like, the am I doing?
Yeah,
you know, like literally.
Yeah,
I could literally stop right now.
And he thought, but at least I have Armchair Explorer.
So he listens to other people doing crazy things and was like, I'm not alone.
Yeah.
And he was inspired to do it. And because he's from Boulder, we obviously got connected. And I said, hey, listen, mate, as soon as you're back in town, come into the studio. We're going to hang out and chat. And so that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
So let's go to that clip now. But Jason,
yeah, I just want to add, because I picked this clip out, a little bit of context is just that, so this is well into his trip, thousands and thousands of miles in. He's already been through a lot of different trials and tribulations, but he ended up catching a mystery illness while he was in, I want to say it's Vietnam.
The worst kind of illness.
Yeah. Well, literally. And there's a whole bunch of lead up to this. It's a mystery of what it is. And please deep dive into the episode when it comes out to see the full story that's going on here. But we're giving you a little nugget that is kind of the height of the emotional drama here, where he finally figures out exactly what it is that's been plaguing him and making the rest of his trip so difficult. And he's going to push on and kind of raise a whole topic of adventure philosophy that is so core to what you do on Armchair Explorer. Yeah. It's so perfect for the show. So that is what you're going to hear now. Let's go to Chris McCaffrey.
I was just so obsessed with getting to Singapore that I think like the mind over body thing, like I just like forced my body into a managing state. But it was like running the tank on empty or running your car's engine without oil or something. Like I was just totally broken. So I flew from Singapore to Perth, Australia, and it actually got worse. So I go to a doctor in Perth, and props to the doctor. He looked at the case and was like, this just doesn't sound like dengue fever. And so he then kind of initiated the investigative process. So I came back positive for a rickettsial disease. He sent me to an infectious disease specialist, and they ran all the tests to confirm that I had typhus. It's like 40% fatal. And I was like, oh, like I was really like nervous about all this. And he's like, well, like you've not died yet, so that's nice. I was like, thanks, doctor. That makes me feel like quite good. But yeah, I mean, I'm 25. I've never really like grapple with that. Yeah. One of the harder things about it was talking to people at home and be like, I think I might be dying, but I'm not going to like come back and figure it out. It felt a little bit like I was telling people like this ride means more to me than like getting to like ever see you again. So I just like stopped. Like I didn't talk to anyone from home for months and months. I found it much harder to accept risks when I felt tied to other people. And so the being alone helped for sure in that setting. I think if I was with other people, I definitely wouldn't have finished.
Which I think is such an interesting way to talk about an adventure like this that people don't usually do, because there is an inherently selfish level of going on these crazy trips that might come at a great personal cost. And I've never heard someone say so upfront, if I had come clean to my friends and family and my loved ones about what this might do to me, I never would have done it. I've never heard that before. But it healed him in a way, finishing this expedition and going on. And it's not like he's now, you know, having faced this tragic illness, it's not like he's afraid of going out and doing grand things. And that's actually been a big part of his story, is like, I've rode around the world, what next? And that's what this story kind of tells, is how you grapple with that, how you grapple with the emotional complexities of having a dangerous situation like this, and what comes after.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because one of the pieces that I quote at the end when I was kind of getting into the script, you know, there's different layers of a story, right? And to begin with, this layer is always about the journey itself, like, and that is, you know, the fundamental layer, the top layer, if you like. And then there's like the different layers. What are the other pieces to it? And in some ways I was like trying to figure that out. But then I like thought about, have you ever read The Alchemist?
No.
Oh my God, you have to read The Alchemist.
Okay.
It's maybe my favorite book of all time. It's right up there with Lord of the Rings, and it's like way better than Lord of the Rings, technically, and on a deep level.
What did you say?
We'll see about that.
I don't know. I feel bad. I feel bad now. The Alchemist is one of the most beautiful stories that's ever been written. And at its core, it's basically about the story of this boy who's trying to find his personal legend, quotes, right? Your kind of destiny, I guess, your purpose. But it's something that you're trying to find. It's not something that arrives to you. And I think
that you know in advance.
Yeah, and I think that people assume that destiny is something that is inherent within your being. Yeah. And then all you have to do is be alive, and then your destiny is going to reveal itself. But the idea of a personal legend is that no, its destiny is something that you have to journey towards, that you have to be aware of, and that you have to work towards. And
so like it's in the direction of a self-fulfilling prophecy, but not because it requires a great level of self-directing.
And you don't know what the prophecy is.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it's not, maybe it is a self-fulfilling prophecy, but you don't know what the prophecy is, and you can't pick it out for yourself, right? You can't be like, this is what I want my personal legend to be.
Yeah.
Like, it has to be true.
You can affect its direction, but you can't really know.
So you have to find it through your exploring and journeying through the world and through life. But then in finding it, you also have to be it. You have to actualize it. You have to live it.
Yeah.
Right?
And there's a conclusion with Chris McCaffrey's story that we did not give away here. It cut me to my core, the realization that he had at the end of this journey.
Absolutely. And for anyone that's an explorer, a traveler, a seeker of any kind, this is a book you have to read. So next up, I did this episode years ago. So I started this show in 2020. This was like in my first 20 episodes ever. So when you guys listen to this, forgive me.
Oh, it's still pretty good.
But the story is good. And the story is not mine. The story is this guy called Dylan Thuras. He is one of the co-founders of Atlas Obscura, which you've probably heard of. If you haven't heard of it, it's this incredible website. It's a book, it's a podcast, it's all sorts of cool things. And it really highlights the interesting, the weird, the hidden things about travel and places and people and experiences. The things that you might not necessarily think to highlight, but then...
Not the top 5 in the guidebook.
Definitely not the top 5 in the guidebook. But then also, like, once you hear it, that might just be the story you come back with.
Yeah.
And intrinsic to the way that Dylan, his co-founder is called Josh, Dylan and Josh kind of look for what these things are, is this concept of wonder. And anyone who's got to the end of the show knows I've got a thing or two to say about wonder. But it's really core to their idea too. So this is a clip from the end of the episode. The story he told me was about a journey he took to discover like the hidden wonders of South America.
Oh,
it's a
yeah.
really like formative journey in his life and in his work as well. And this quote kind of summarizes something of why that's important and what that means to him.
Wonder in the superficial way is cheap, right? Like you can go on the internet and you can see all kinds of crazy stuff. Like, wow, so much. But that's not really, it's not the same as creating a meaningful sense of awe around something, whether that something is some aspect of nature, the natural world, or science, something, the wonder of the cosmos. Real wonder comes from deep contemplation. And the world it's hard to find the space for that kind of deep contemplation in our world, because it is a busy place, it is a noisy place, and to make the space for that deeper personal sense of wonder, you have to really set out to do it. And whether you're doing it as a traveler or in your own backyard, you kind of have to cultivate that space. And I think it's actually harder to cultivate in some ways in a world that's so filled with this kind of like cheap dose of fast phone wonder. But the more you can find space for that deeper wonder, the communing with the natural world and the deeper world, I think the more your life has meaning and the easier it is to find the good in the world.
So that's beautiful, right? And really in line with a lot of the stuff I talk about. The reason why we're pulling back this kind of best of is we've done a bit of a swap with Atlas Obscura, which I was delighted to do, because not only are they an absolutely massive podcast, so thank you so much for sharing our episode, but also because what they do is each episode is like this super cool individual place or experience, and you just like duck into it, which is so cool.
And the philosophy is so up our alley. So,
Oh yeah. So this story is about the journey that Dylan took with his co-founder Josh to South America, and they experienced all sorts of cool stuff, including the everlasting lightning storm.
Oh, I love how you described that in the episode too, because like you could picture in your head, like picture those plasma balls from science class in middle school, where you touch the thing and all of a sudden you've got 100 lightning bolts attacking. Like that's apparently what this place is like. The way they describe it, it's so cool.
So this is like a place in Venezuela where there's there's like 250 lightning strikes a day or something stupid. It's like there is a lightning storm.
Who cursed this place
all the time, right?
No, it's cool.
And wait, should we have a
really high-fi.
Let's have a little movie trailer voice off right now. Okay,
right,
I'm gonna get my best one. The everlasting lightning storm.
I can't beat that. That's really good.
No, come on, you got it.
The everlasting lightning storm.
Totally beat that. That's amazing. Cool stuff like that. There's like the last stinking bridge, this incredible waterfall that no one ever knew about.
Was this the episode 2 with the mermaids?
And there's an evil mermaid, correct.
You've got to check, because in the episode, Aaron goes into the original tale of, we're talking like
Hans Christian
Andersen, like the original folk tales.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to ruin it, but like all I'll say is it doesn't end like the Disney movie.
Mermaids aren't all that.
No.
Yeah.
No. Check it out.
They're nothing like you thought they were.
Yeah.
So this waterfall was cursed by a mermaid. Turns out you can still visit. It's okay. But what I wanted to get into is going back to roadside attractions.
Yes.
One of the places that he talks about in terms of roadside attractions is called the House on the Rock.
What is that?
So, all right, guess what state it's in?
Oh, this is U.S. we're talking. I thought we're out of South America on this one.
Real.
House on the Rock, Little Rock, Arkansas.
Wisconsin!
Midwest!
They own them all. Anyway, so get this. In the House on the Rock, there is a statue of a sea monster eating a squid that is bigger than the Statue of Liberty in this house.
Which I'm assuming like pulls people that wouldn't normally be like go into this town, into this place. Yeah.
Like some guy was like, "You're mad. Why are you creating this?"
This is my favorite point from the whole topic of the Atlas Obscura that people don't really think about, I don't think, is we've all heard the term thrown around a million times, sustainable tourism, right? You don't want to be having like a negative impact on the places you go. Obviously, the places that get the most people get the highest impact. Usually those high, the places with the most travel usually have the most infrastructure in place to handle that. But when you spread the whole thing out so that you get tourists going to places that aren't as popular, it helps them in ways they've never experienced before. And it helps take the brunt load off of the really busy places.
Yeah.
It literally helps everybody.
Yeah.
To create more spread apart tourism.
So, good example of that. We live in Colorado, quite close to Rocky Mountain National Park.
Very popular.
What's the lake that everyone goes to?
The Bear Lake hike is the one that everybody does.
They've had to
because it's an easy drive up. You see the amazing views, but you don't have to work that hard. You're not going to die if you didn't have oxygen supplements and all that stuff. It's doable, and it's that beautiful. It is that cool.
Yeah, but my point is, it's one of
a million,
thousands of amazing lakes.
There's my little tip for you guys, by the way, is if you start at Bear Lake, do it. Everyone loves it, but just go up the trail further. No one does. And you see Emerald Lake, Dream Lake, all these incredible, smaller, but way more picturesque places.
Yeah.
And there's nobody up there.
It's really all about just trying to dig beneath the obvious. And like, what is wonder? Is it seeing the Grand Canyon? Of course it is.
Yeah.
But is it only that? And so that's really what this episode is about. Dylan's, as you can hear from that clip, is beautifully eloquent. Go check their pod out. It's amazing. And also check
out the episode we did with them.
Check out the episode. It's like the prequel to the whole thing.
Yeah.
And so anyway, what have we got coming up now? Wait a minute. I have some news coming in my ear. Right now, we're going to go to our emergency correspondent, Jason Paton.
That's me. So this is another episode of Headlines with Jason until I come up with a more punful, clever title for this one. First off, 2 out of 3 people on vacation say the anticipation of the trip is better than the trip itself. Do you agree with this?
I'm not sure. I think I might agree.
Oh, come on. Am I in the 1/3?
No, I mean, like, but don't you think like your imagination is often better than the real thing, right? Like, it's like the thought of lying on the beach with the cocktail is great, but then like the wind kicks up, you get sand, and like it's still lovely, but it's not like as perfect.
What I'll agree with you is that my favorite part of a roller coaster is like the ride up.
Yeah, exactly.
But when it comes to traveling, to me, the actual feeling of being in somewhere, like half the kick I get out of traveling is like figuring out how to like read subway signs.
All right,
so
I'm sure
you can't replace that with imagination.
I'm sure there's a type 2 fun that we've done that counteracts that.
All right. So 1 in 10, we're getting a lot more granular here, but 1 in 10 people experience post-vacation funk before they've even finished the trip.
Yeah, me too.
I do get that. That is the 1 of 10 I'm lining up with.
So
there's moments where I'll get so bummed because it's not going to last forever.
So that's why I'm a proponent of 10-day trips.
Why? Because you definitely want to go home by 10 days?
Yeah, because 7-day trips, right, which is the classic, the week trip. 5 days in, you start getting the blues.
Yeah.
You're going back. That's not long enough.
Yeah.
Right? A 10-day trip, you start getting the blues around 7 or 8 days. That's enough.
I think it depends on the place, but I agree.
Listen, this has been mathematically worked out, Jason, by people far smarter than you.
And 31% of people plan their next trip while still on a trip.
It's actually a big issue. And that is like, let's say you're on a trip and you go to this beautiful place that you've been planning and dreaming about for months and months and months. You get there and a couple of minutes in, you're like, where should we go for lunch? Let's think about where we're going for lunch. And it's like the human like instinct is to always think, what's coming next? What's coming next? What's coming next?
Yeah.
And the secret is you've got to be like aware that is what my mind's going to do. My mind is going to tell me to keep thinking about what's coming next. Like that works when you're back home, but it spoils it when you're away.
Yeah.
We all do it. I'm not saying that I'm immune to it. I'm definitely not immune to it. But if you can just like be aware of it, you're like, hold on, I'm in like Tulum in Mexico.
Yeah.
You know?
Context.
It's like, why am I
Step
thinking about
back.
where I go for lunch?
Literally. Yeah.
You know?
To that same point, like I found opportunities in those moments where something doesn't really like live up to your expectations because inevitably, like, you go through a little bit of a grieving period. You're a little bit depressed for a split second.
Yeah.
But usually as your expectations crash to zero, you start opening your mind up and you're like, well, wait a second, you know, and then all of a sudden you're open to things that maybe you wouldn't have noticed because it wasn't what you expected.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden now you're open to all possibilities.
Yeah. And shout out to Brian Thacker, by the way, who's one of our presenters.
Correspondence.
We talked about this a while back and we shared one of his episodes,
Yeah.
which was kind of, about going to these places that he knew nothing about. And this was his point.
Yeah.
Let's go to somewhere that I know nothing about because I have no expectations.
Yes. So anything impresses you.
What happens when I have no expectations? Exactly that. Everything's new. Everything's amazing. And there's something to be learned from that.
Anyway, this has been Travel Headlines with Jason.
Right about now, it's time for... A Word from Our Landlord. So this is a section, guys, that we're launching this episode. It's called A Word from Our Landlord.
I thought it was going to be one word, though.
Just
Okay,
one word.
let's do one word. One word from our landlord.
That's the only thing I can think of. One word.
Okay, next week, more from our landlord.
Sometimes it's a little unclear what's going on in this room.
Yeah, I bet.
Being your neighbor.
Okay, so one of the reasons that we want to get Pat in today is because you have, my friend, one of the craziest shark stories that I've ever heard in my life. We did an episode about South Australia a while ago, didn't we, Jason? Yeah. And that is the place where Rodney Fox, who is basically the originator of Jaws.
The inspiration.
The inspiration for Jaws. And it has one of the most insane shark attack stories you're ever going to hear.
And then went on to become like an ultimate conservator for sharks and protecting them and kind of like hated what he created in popular media and all
100%.
that.
Yeah. All of that aside, Patrick actually got attacked by a great.
Yeah, so tell us what that's like.
Go tell us that story.
To clarify, not attacked, but it was an unfortunate accident for sure, in which I thought I was going to lose my life.
But not attacked, just to be clear.
Not attacked. No, I mean, we were...
Friendly killing.
It was a friendly kill.
We were bringing the shark in towards the cage, and so it was our fault.
Yeah. Well, that's true, actually, yeah.
It wasn't like it was attacking me.
It's
It
the
was
shark's freaking ocean, right?
eating the food that we had hung out in front of the
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
cage.
Okay, so Patrick is in
Isla Guadalupe,
300 nautical miles off the coast of...
Baja, California.
And what happens is you're going there for a shark dive, right?
Yep, going there with the intention of filming great whites on a 5-day expedition. So this island is prolific with great whites. It always has been. It's been a great spot for spearfishing for a number of years until another gentleman by the name of Fox was eviscerated by a huge great white there, and they stopped doing spearfishing. So we were in a cage off the back of the boat filming. It was lunchtime, apparently for both the sharks and us. And I was filming. I was still in the water. Me and a buddy were the only ones in the water. A guy named Paul Damgard. And I noticed a great white coming up from the depths, but I felt pretty safe in the cage.
Okay.
And I was kind of excited because I'm seeing the shark swimming up pretty aggressively. I know it's going for the hang bait in front of us. So I was looking forward to getting a great shot. She was a massive 21-foot pregnant female, and she hit the hang bait, was blinded momentarily, and just came full force into the cage, hit the viewing window in front of us, which bent the cage and then just pried it apart and ripped the entire front of the cage off, came in. So I'm not actually in scuba gear. I don't have buoyancy. I probably had 35 pounds of lead on me, and I'm breathing off a hookah line that's attached to a compressor on the deck. So I can breathe underwater indefinitely, but I've got no means of flotation. So if I was to go out of that cage,
Oh, Jesus.
I'm immediately just going to sink because I've got no way of inflating anything to regain buoyancy. First thing I did was search for the emergency exit, which we had like in the bottom of the cage, and got out of that.
Oh, my God.
I just went out and immediately sunk, but only went as far as the hookah line would
Because you're
allow me.
attached, yeah.
So I'm just dangling there. My buddy is somewhere behind this shark. I thought he was eaten because I'm looking up and there's two cages basically. So you've got little buoys that are in between to keep them from crashing together. And it just happened to be a red buoy. So I'm like I'm thinking I'm going to get eaten alive. I'm looking up, I'm seeing red. I thought he's dead. I'm next. All the while, I'm looking down. There's 2 other sharks circling below me while this massive shark is completely occupied the cage.
I'm interested, like, what it feels like in that moment where you're floating there in space, effectively in the ocean, and you see the other sharks beneath you, and you see the shark attacking. In those moments where you're in, like, literal grave danger, some people talk about, not realizing that moment and just kind of going into a different mode, but then other people talk about, like, being hyper aware. What was it for you?
Kind of both, actually. Everything just went really, really slow. Everything was super focused. I think just the action of filming kept me occupied. I didn't freak out. My buddy dropped his camera, so I think part of that helped me to keep doing what I needed to do. But everything was super, super slow motion. I 100% thought I was going to die. Was prepared to. There was no panic about it. I was just like...
It's strange, isn't it?
Acceptance.
This is the way it's going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's almost like a fascination. Like, we've heard a bunch of people on the show, and we talk about, like, oh, that's interesting. This is the way it's going to be. An avalanche or whatever,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, yeah. I wonder if sometimes, like, something comes over you. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
I think your brain can do stuff to try to make you be okay with it in a way.
okay.
I think it's so interesting what you say about the camera in particular, because, like, on 2 levels, the fact that it kind of calmed you slightly to keep on filming.
Yeah.
Because on one level, obviously, it's literally the mission. It's what you're there to do. So that there's got to be some comfort, or at least just some, like, mental segregation there.
Focus.
Where you lock in. This is what I'm here to do.
Yep.
Kind of takes you out of the moment. And the other level, I've read a lot about how this is just a thing in society where, like, you're viewing something through a lens. It kind of makes it less real in a way that makes it a little bit more comfortable. You see this in a lot of emergency situations where people pull out cameras and start filming, and they're not really realizing the danger that they're in. Like, just recently,
Right.
people get off a burning plane 20 feet away from the plane that might explode at any minute, pull out their phones and start filming. It's like, don't you feel the danger? Well, it's kind of less real through the lens.
100%. And I also think that there's something about, like, anything you do, if you're good at it, you end up doing things that you didn't even know you were capable of doing. And then you look at it in retrospect and you're like, how the hell did I land that jump or whatever?
Right. What has been your appreciation, approach, respect for sharks since then?
The best thing that I did was what I did after. Everyone on board was like, oh God, this is, like, terrible. We've got to end the trip. And I was like, no way. Well, I'm getting back in the water. There's no way.
Really?
Like, so I was the first person back in the water. I actually went down on a platform, was surrounded by great whites.
Really?
My heart is pounding. My adrenaline is through the roof. I'm terrified. These sharks could definitely sense that. And so they were much more attuned to me because my heart's beating like a rabbit. But it was the best thing I could possibly do because it gave me the real perspective on what they really are. And I'm not their prey. And it helped me to come to terms with it again so that I wasn't fearful of sharks and I could go back in the water and I could continue to do the thing that I love, which is scuba diving. Every dive that I've been on since then, anywhere that I've dove in the world, I always see sharks. Now.
Yeah.
Like, I just did a trip to Hawaii and I'm diving and I'm with a huge group and I was like, yeah, we're probably going to see a shark. And the dive master on the trip who was leading it, she's like, no, we don't see sharks. Sure enough.
You're with
But
me.
they like you now.
Yeah, you're with me now.
We saw several sharks and I don't know, like,
Are you sure it's not just they're like,
Maybe
we
they
got to
just-
finish the job?
they're probably that. I am a tasty mother.
If it was Jaws the movie, it would be the same shark.
Yeah.
Seeking revenge, wouldn't
But
it? Yeah.
no, they're not the
Yeah,
monsters
100%,
that they're
yeah.
depicted in some movies and they need to be protected. And
Yeah.
I think it's the fear of sharks is completely irrational
Yeah.
and it's something that has been a product of movies like Jaws. And
Yeah.
so I appreciate the fact that he's been a conservator of sharks, and you can't help but to be that once you have gone down and experienced it for what it is, because there's nothing more amazing than going down and scuba diving and being in that world and seeing these animals. I mean, part of the reason I became a vegetarian after being a meat lover for so long was the fact that I'm watching these sentient beings like swimming around, there's no denying it when you see them in their element, like how intelligent they are, how intelligent tuna are.
Yeah.
Like, it's a hard thing to see and then eat them. So
man, what a story.
But yeah,
legend.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming
Thank
on.
you.
That was a word from our landlord. And it's just completely showed us, doesn't he, Jason? Where do we go from there?
How do we do the whole rest of the podcast? Thank you so much, Patrick.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, mate.
A word from our landlord.
So look, we're gonna kind of wrap up to the end here now, but there was a segment I wanted to like just interject.
Please.
And this show isn't political, obviously. We're a travel and adventure show. But there's obviously a lot going on with Iran and what's happening there. I have a close friend of mine that lives here who's Iranian. But more importantly, we've had guests on the show that have spoken about Iran. And I guess what I wanted to do was share a couple of clips from the people that have been there and met the people. Because one of the dangers of what happens in this sort of environment is that we generalize, and we generalize from what the regime is or what the political government is. And we generalize from that to create a vision of what Iran is as a country or what any country is.
But the people are not the government.
Yeah.
They're not the regime.
Absolutely.
And they're just like us.
And when you generalize like that, that's when you start to, I think, discriminate. And so the first clip I want to share, and this is really just to showcase, hey, here's someone that's traveled to literally every country in the world. This is Drew Binksy.
Wait, did he hit the final? The last I heard, there was just a few to go.
No, he's done 197.
Hit the last 6. Okay.
He's got like 5 million YouTube subscribers.
Yeah.
He's a pretty big deal. And I was lucky to interview him. And the episode that we did was about like, he wanted to talk about the world's so-called most dangerous countries.
Oh, yeah.
Because
like Afghanistan.
So he wanted to talk about Afghanistan, Yemen, a couple others, and Iran.
According to like people's popular conception of danger.
And then like this was my experience there.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is what Drew Binksy, travel expert, been to every country in the world, had to say about his experience in Iran.
Iran is a wonderful country. It's always in my top 5. Anytime someone says, what's your top 5 countries, Iran is in there. Just for the hospitality alone. I've never met kinder, friendlier people, ever, in the whole world. I mean, it blows you away when they will invite you in their house and for tea or even offer you a bed to sleep in, and the smiles on their faces. And I think Iran is the most misconceived country in the world. Absolutely.
And hasn't that been your experience everywhere you go?
Yeah.
That like it's so easy to build up like the other kind of in your mind, but every time you actually go somewhere, it breaks down those misconceptions.
Yeah, it's hard to remember that sometimes, obviously, particularly when there's lots of horrible stuff going around the world, and none of this is to excuse all of the horrible stuff going around the world, and none of this is either to say that this is the worst that's going on in the world. There's terrible stuff going around everywhere. I don't have the platform or authority to comment on any of that or all of that. All I want to do is just share like a few guests that have come on and have a first person experience of this country.
Of the people of that country.
The people of this country. So here's another one. His name's Pico Iyer. You might have heard of him. He's one of the world's greatest travel writers. Beautiful guy. And just to set up this clip. So basically, Pico arrives in Iran. This story is about a book he wrote called In Search of Paradise. So he's going to all these different places.
Which is, Iran is where the word paradise comes from.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah. And it's interesting as well because there's the conflicting view of paradise is kind of like intrinsic to a lot of this debate that's never going to go anywhere.
And the people there
right.
have different ideas of what that
is. And
it's
like we're constantly battling about this idea of what's paradise or what's just or what's moral or whatever. So that's kind of what the investigation of this book is. And he goes to a lot of different countries. But to set up this clip, he arrives in Iran and then he basically he gets into his hotel. And some of the things he starts to talk about immediately is like how interested he is in like how Western parts of this are. Like he didn't expect that.
It didn't feel nearly as foreign as he expected.
Yeah.
He gets there and he's seeing CNN on the TV. Everyone speaks perfect English. There's McDonald's on every corner,
And that is Iran. Anyway, he sneaks out of his hotel and gets a taxi and goes to this mosque where there's this big festival, this ceremony to commemorate this saint, this Islamic saint. And he goes there, and it's this beautiful ceremony. And he talks about, you know, kind of being led in to watch these kind of inner chambers, part of it. And like young boys and children being passed over shoulders just so they can kind of get a glimpse of the coffin of the saint ahead, and the glinting of 30,000 mirrors and silver above and how it's reflecting everything. He's got a beautiful way with words. He looks over at his driver and he's crying. His drives are, there's like tears weeping down his face, and he's walking backwards because this is a sacred place and he must never show his back to the saint. And he looks at him and he understands this like profound sense of religiousness. But then he goes out again and it kind of changes, and that's where this clip comes from.
And at one point I looked across the room and I saw my driver, and his hand was on his heart. And he was walking backwards, so he would never present his back to the long dead saint. And there were tears welling in his eyes. He just seemed like the picture of Islamic piety. But 10 minutes later, when we were back out on the street, walking towards his car again, he told me about his wife, who he said was a Yorkshire woman who was waiting for him in England and expecting their first baby. And then he told me that he had paid a human trafficker $2,500 to smuggle him into England in the back of a truck, breathing through a tube so he wouldn't be detected. And then he told me how the British government had very generously given him a court-appointed lawyer and translator, and they had worked for 3 years to win him asylum status in Britain. And yet, every summer, he stole back into the country he'd stolen out of, Iran, to see the mother and the hometown and the mosque that he missed so much. And so when he dropped me off at my hotel, and again, this was 20 hours after I'd arrived in Iran, my very first night, I thought Iran is in our front pages every day, pretty much, for the last many years. And I'd never heard about a dissident stealing back into the country he's risked his life to steal out of. And I'd never heard about a very faithful Islamic soul who didn't want to live in an Islamic republic. And I think it just reminded me of what all travel is about, which is the fascination of any place is in the contradictions, the ambiguities, and what lives between the lines, which is really exactly what you almost never get if you just watch CNN or read the New York Times. But as soon as you're in a place, you begin to see this weave of subtleties and nuances that really explodes all your assumptions and all your explanations and reminds you you're in this human place that can't be reduced to any simple sentence.
Isn't that like ridiculously beautiful and on point for what's going on in the world right now?
Yeah, it is. Like he was just talking about, life is contradictions, life is complexity, life is a lot of different people living in different ways than you, and that doesn't mean that we need to be against them at all.
So anyway, a few different episodes coming out, but another one is The Hidden Trails of Oregon. We've spoken about this a bunch, but is there anything that you want to shout out?
Yeah, I'm excited for this one to come out. This is episode 3 of season 2. It's called We Will Never Fade. We are returning to the topic of the indigenous people of Eastern Oregon. This one in particular, we introduced the character of Bobby Connor in the first episode, if you'll remember, and we're going back to her because we only included just a tiny little snippet. We were sitting outside of the Tomas Licht Institute in Eastern Oregon, outside of Pendleton, and we included just the tiniest bit of our conversation with her. So this third episode expands so greatly upon that and tells such a broad... She is the ultimate expert to speak upon this subject, and we also take a kind of... I know there's audio tours out there that go through museums and cultural centers like this, but we created our own new version of an audio tour to take our listeners through this institute, telling the story of these tribes, using literal audio recordings of people affected by the injustices of the past that were recorded and played back inside the museum. We got all kinds of different random like archival audio pieces to include like dramatic recreations of ancient stories. There's all kinds of crazy things that this gets into. It's a beautiful deep dive that she deserves, honestly. And it kind of rounds out that whole picture that we've been drawing of that side of the culture of Eastern Oregon.
And then we just turned it into a whole episode with all sorts of other cool stuff.
I just remember when you and I wrapped up recording, we said our goodbyes, we gave Bobby a hug goodbye. I just remember turning to you and saying, I think I just talked to the smartest person I've ever met in my life. And that will come across to you when you check this one out, listeners.
Okay, so we have some credits to do. Jason, can you remember what the plan was with the credits?
I think this might be my favorite credit sequence we've come up with to date. We came up with a system, complicated but foolproof. We played cards. And the bet was whoever lost the card game had to read the credits. And unfortunately for him, and very fortunately for the rest of us, this means that our own editor-producer, Charles Tyree, gets his first debut appearance on Pathways to read you, our lovely audience, the credits. And I promise you, as excited as I am, he's more scared than that.
But what Charles doesn't know is it's not just enough to just read the credits.
Oh, no, of course not. No, that's easy.
So in the spirit of the everlasting lightning storm, I want you to read the credits in your best movie trailer voice. Imagine this was the movie trailer for Armchair Productions, the blockbuster hit starring, who should we star in our movie?
Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise.
Clearly, you kind of look like Tom Cruise.
But taller?
No, it's just the Scientology that you look like a Scientologist. Anyway, should we give him the big chair?
Let's give him the big chair.
Let's give him the big chair.
Okay, Charles.
Welcome to Armchair Productions. Check us out at armchair-productions.com. Send us a message on Instagram at
Wait a minute, stop. This is becoming more of like a sultry.
Yeah. I feel like you're trying to romance me over there, buddy. I know we're locking eyes, but yeah. Let's lift the mood a little bit. This isn't a rom-com.
Welcome to Armchair Productions, where you get to hear what it's like to be there for real. Send us a message at armchair-productions.com.
What's our Instagram, baby?
At Armchair Explorer Podcast on Facebook and Instagram, and now TikTok.
Yeah!
Armchair Productions is produced by Aaron Millar, Jason Paton, and Charles Tyree. And what do we do?
That'll do it.
I think that'll do it. Yeah! Good job, Charles.
Travel doesn't always go to plan, and that's where the best stories live. Welcome to the Winging It Travel podcast, where you don't just hear about travel, you feel it. I'm James Hammond, and I'm podcasting my own journeys from the road, sharing immersive soundscape episodes that drop you right into the moment, from busy streets to remote mountains. Along the way, I sit down with local people and fellow travelers to tell honest stories about life, culture, and chase an adventure beyond the routine. No filters, no fake perfection, just stories to tell, tips to share, and experiences to inspire. Search Winging It Travel Podcast on any podcast app, and let's wing it.
Hi, I'm Mike Siegel, and man, oh man, do I love talking about travel. You think I'd get enough of it touring the world as a stand-up comedian, or just going off on my own personal adventures around the world? No, when I get home, I still have to talk about it. That's how much I love travel. So every week I sit down with a friend, a travel expert, influencer, expat, or anyone from any walk of life who shares my passion for travel. So if you want to hear a fun, casual, off-the-cuff chat about travel from people who love it, listen to the Travel Tales podcast with me, Mike Siegel, wherever you get your podcasts.